All right, hello again. Jeff Scott of Blackhawk Technical College coming at you right now with 152, 153 Mobile Web Development iOS class. I'm going to be going over Chapter 7 momentarily. Remember, there are, 22 chapters in our book. We've so far gone over Chapter 1, Welcome to the Swift Jungle, Chapter 2, Appeasing the Tiki Gods, Chapter 3, Handling Basic User Interaction, Chapter 4, More User Interface Fun, Chapter 5, Rotation and Adaptive Layout, and Chapter 6, Multi-View Applications. I got very little done during the break in regards to this class, and I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm just telling you I didn't. But my hope is to get back into it and probably do, for the rest of the semester, about 2 chapters a week. And most of the time what I'm going to end up doing is just putting these out there on the system and not going over them in class. So with that said, let's take a start here. As they mention here, in the previous chapter, we built our first multi-view app. In this chapter, we're going to build a full tab bar app with 5 different tabs and 5 different content views. All right. The new control we're going to use in this chapter is called the Picker view, or just the Picker. There's an example of what a Picker control looks like here on page 206. Figure 7-1. So we're going to create this Pickers application. And this Pickers application, as mentioned, starting on the bottom of this page, it's going to have 5 different pickers. The first one is a very simple one, very similar to the one that you see up here. It's a date picker. As they say, this is the easiest kind to implement, and it'll have a button on it that when you tap the button, it'll display an alert that shows the date that was picked. And that's shown right here on page 207. Okay, so that would come up with an alert view which would say the date and the time. All right, next, we'll have a single component picker, which you'll see on the next page here in figure 7.3. And as it says, it's a little more work to get it going. We'll learn how to specify the values to be displayed, and we'll use both a delegate and a data source. And for that example, as you can see on the next page here on page 208, this will have a list of people, basically most of the ones who are in Star Wars, and you choose one and you click select, and it'll tell you which character you selected. Next, we'll have a multi-component picker. As it says, the technical term for each of the wheels here is a picker component. So the idea is, it says we can change any one of these without affecting the other one. So over here we have a list of things that we can have, let's say for lunch. Ham, turkey, peanut butter, tuna salad, all right, chicken salad, and there's some other stuff. And over here are the different kinds of bread we might want to put these on. So we're building a sandwich. So right now, if we were to click it, we would have chosen turkey and sourdough. So again, you can see we get an alert that comes up that says, thank you for your order. Your turkey on sourdough bread will be right up. So those are basically independent components. Next, we're going to do a picker with dependent components. And the idea behind that is on the left here, you'll have all 50 of the states in the United States. And then on the right, we'll have a list of associated area codes. And the area code that is shown there will depend on the state that you've selected. All right, then finally, as we'll see on the next page, we'll create a custom picker with images. And it's meant to be based off of a simple slot machine. But the idea is you need to get 3 of these in a row. Okay? So what I'm going to do first, good, bad, or indifferent, as we get started with this, I'm going to come back to this in just a minute. But before I do, let's bring the program up. And it's called Pickers. And sorry, I want one too many. And I'm just going to show you what we're going to attempt to build in here. Now, if this lecture goes the way most of the other lectures have gone this semester, I'm sure I'll have 1 or more problems as we go and work our way through here. But we'll do the best we can to work through them. My hope is to get as much done. I'm at home right now, and my hope is to get as much done as I can before my daughters come home, which is in about an hour and a half. All right. So I'm going to attempt to do as much as I can in that amount of time. Hopefully it's going to be coming up very soon. But I'll show you an example of each one of the 5 picker controls that we'll be doing. All right, next we're going to talk about delegates, and then we're going to actually go on in and create the application. This is a little bit different than the stuff that we've done thus far. All right, so if we bring up the main storyboard, notice first of all there are a total of 6 of these different scenes here. We've got our main view controller. We're going to have a single scene, a date scene, a custom scene, a dependent scene, and a double scene. All right, and that's what's going to be basically is going to show in here as we start to work our way through here. See if I remove a couple of these, I can get myself some more room. So here's our single one, our date, the view controller that we're going to be using, the custom one, looks very similar to the one we've already looked at, and as we work our way through there, this will make a little bit more sense. There's a lot of stuff in here, all right, that some of it I just kind of whisked over, and what happened was it showed me some stuff we'd already seen on top of some other stuff. Don't let that throw you really one way or the other. That's really and truly is about the least important thing here. This is what we're going to create in just a couple minutes. So this will be our tab view controller, and based off of that tab view controller, by default, we're going to have a couple other controllers. We start with 2 because that's what we get really by default, and then we're going to add the rest of them. All right, so you may or may not be able to see this, but there's a third one, and there's 2 other ones that are in here also. So we'll end up creating this as we go along in here. All right. So, as mentioned here, before we dive in and build the app, let's take a look at what makes pickers more complex. Most of the time that when we've worked with a control so far this semester, for instance, if we wanted to add a label, we just clicked on the label, dragged it out there, and wired it up, and then we were able to get going. All right, but there's more to it when you are working with a picker control. As it says there, you need to also provide each picker control with a picker delegate and a picker data source. It's not that it's that hard, but it'll take a little bit more work than what we've done before. So first they talk about delegates, and please remember what the word delegate means, even in this context. When you delegate authority, you're asking somebody else to do the work for you, for lack of better words. As it says, the picker in this case will defer some of its jobs to its delegate. The most important of these will be to determine what to actually draw, all right, in the rows of each of the components. As mentioned here, the picker asks the delegate for either a string or a view that will be drawn, and the picker gets its data from its delegate. In addition to delegates, pickers also have a data source, as mentioned here down near the bottom of page 211. Sorry about that. All right. It says the data source tells the picker how many components it will be working with and how many rows make up each component. Notice the data source works like the delegate, and without a data source and a delegate, the picker cannot do its job. In fact, as it says, it won't even be drawn. All right. It's very common for the data source and the delegate to be the same object. Quite often, it's your actual view controller. All right. It says the view controllers for each of our application's content panes will be the data source and the delegate for their picker. So, as mentioned on the top of page 212, the picker data source is really part of the controller, as mentioned right here. So we're about to go in, fire up Xcode. It's already fired up, but we're going to come in and we're going to create the app as shown here. Again, I'll try to take it nice and slow. I hopefully won't have too many problems. All right, we'll see as we get going. Okay, so I'm going to put this on the back burner for now, and in Xcode here, I'm going to do a file, and I'm going to tell it to close my project. Why? Because I want to create a new one. All right, I'm going to leave this up here also. You'll see why in a couple minutes. So I want a new project. I started working on this at home before, so I've already got one named Pickers. Okay, so I think I'll just call this one Picker, singular. All right. Keep it at Blackhawk Technical College. Organization identifier and bundle are fine. Language is Swift. The device they tell you to choose universal. And believe me, eventually we will get here to core data. We're just not there yet. All right, so it's Picker. We'll tell it to save this and save it where we normally would save things. Now, I went through that very quickly, but I do want to mention one more thing. If I come through here and do a file, new, I wish I would have done this, but I didn't. And if I choose project right here, if I were to choose tabbed application, what you'd get would be a root view controller and two different subcontrollers built into it right off of that. So we could have started, instead of starting with a single view for our project type, we could have chosen this. All right, but we didn't because the author says, let's just build it all by hand. This stuff, everything is probably pretty cool in here. So let's just move right over to our storyboard. All right. Now, I may have mentioned this to you before. I may not have. I really and truly don't remember after a while. So I'm going to go back up to the top. When I click here, notice that when I click, I get the three things. There's my view controller. There's one of these is exit. I think the other one's first responder, but I forget which is which. I think that's first responder and that's exit, but I could be backwards. But I'm going to click up here on the yellow thing, and I'm going to go over here. So I'm in my attributes inspector, and under size, I'm going to change it to iPhone 4-inch. Now, why did I do that? This is why. So now on the screen, you can see pretty much everything that I'm working with. You don't have to do that. It doesn't tell you how to do that in the book. They don't talk about it. I just did it because I think it's a little easier to work with that way. All right. So I pretty much, let's see, create a new project. Yeah, I've done all that stuff. First, we need to create 5 new classes in Xcode. All right, we're told to expand the Pickers folder in the Project Navigator. And do a file, new file. So this is fine. Everything that's here is fine. Let's close this for now. Okay, we'll just leave it like this. So I'm going to come in here and choose Picker and do a file, new file. And what I want are all the defaults in here, which is iOS source, Cocoa Touch. And I click Next. And it tells us that the first one that we put in here is supposed to be called Date Picker View Controller. All right, it's supposed to be a subclass of UI View Controller, which it is. We don't want to also create a nib file. Okay, and it says, let's see, language is Swift. Here it's set to iPhone. That's fine. All right, so we're going to click Next. So we've got our Date Picker View Controller. All right, now it asks us where we want to save this. And I'm going to click Create. Now, sometimes when I do it, it actually puts it under supporting files, which really and truly doesn't matter. But if I wanted to, I can drag it way up to the top here. All right, so there's my first one. So they want us to repeat this 4 more times. So again, I'm going to do a file, new, file, just like we did before, next. The second one is going to be called Single Component Picker View Controller. Next, create. All right, and notice it put that one there. I don't know why it does it sometimes and doesn't do it other times. So I'm going to do it again. File, new, whoops. File, again accepting all the defaults here. And the next one is going to be Double Component Picker View Controller. and click Next and Create. So now I have 3 of them done. I need Dependent Component Picker View Controller and Custom Picker View Controller. So there's Dependent Component Picker View Controller. And finally, Custom Picker View, oops, spelled it wrong. Custom Picker View Controller. As far as I know now, everything is right. All is good and right with the world. And there they are. Okay? So as far as I can tell, like I said, everything is good right now. So this looks pretty much the way that you see it on the top of page 213. Mine are not in the same order. They're in the order in which I created them. And really, it's fine. So, says now, and again, I'm just following along in the book. So I'm now on page 213. So we just created these. And now down toward the bottom of page 213, the author says, let's create our tab bar controller. All right, so that's what we're going to do next. Again, I'm just following the author's instructions here. The project template already contains a view controller called View Controller, which is a subclass of UI View Controller. All right, right there. Whoops, I'm sorry, right there. Okay. It says to convert it to a tab bar controller, all we need to do is change its base class. So they want us to open this up and change this from UI View Controller to UI Tab Bar Controller. All right. So this is now UI Tab Bar Controller. So I've made that change. It says next we need to set the tab bar controller up in the storyboard. Probably a good time here to save. All right, so next we're told to open up our storyboard. It says the template added an initial view controller, which we're going to replace. All right. So there's our initial view controller right there. So the author says select it in the document outline and delete it by pressing the delete key. And it's gone. Okay. In the object library, locate a tab bar controller and drag it over into the editing area. So we're going to come down here, and that's again going to be a tab bar controller. There it is. Take it and drag it in here. Boom. There it is. Now, let's see if we can do the same thing here. So let's go and change the size to iPhone 4-inch. And you'll notice once we've done that, we now have some stuff showing that wasn't showing previously. All right, you can see this as we're going on. I'm going to close just about everything now, just so you can see what's here. So this is what we get. This is the same thing we would have gotten had we chosen tab bar controller initially. All right, but for whatever reason, the author didn't show it to you like that. The author is showing it to you like this, which is fine. All right, so it says while you're dragging, you'll see that unlike the other controllers we've been using so far, this one pulls out 3 complete view controller pairs at once, each of which is connected to each other via curved lines, and you can see that right here. This is actually more than just a tab bar. It's 2 child controllers already connected and ready to use. Once you drop the tab bar controller into the editing area, 3 new scenes are added to the storyboard. It says if we expand the document view on the left, you'll see there's a lot more stuff that was not here previously. It says you'll see a nice overview of all the scenes contained in the storyboard, and that's shown in figure 7.9 on page 215. And as far as I can tell, it pretty much looks the same, what I've got as far as what's in figure 7.9. It says you'll also see the curvy line still in place, connecting in in place connected the tab bar controller with each of the children. These lines will always adjust themselves to stay connected no matter how you move these things around. And these things here, these scenes as they're called, can be moved around. The on-screen position of each scene within the storyboard has no impact on the appearance when it runs. So in other words, if I grabbed this and dragged it over here type of thing, it really and truly wouldn't matter. That's what the author is saying. So turning up to page 215. This tab bar controller, the one right here, that's this one, when it says tab bar controller, will be our root controller. To remind you from what we talked about in the previous chapter, the root controller controls the first view that the user sees when the program runs. All right? This root controller is responsible for switching the other views in and out on an as-needed basis. Since we'll connect each of our views to one of the tabs in the tab bar controller seems like a logical place for the root controller. We need to tell iOS that the tab bar controller is the one we should load from the main storyboard when the app starts. To do this, select the tab bar controller icon in the document outline. All right, and there it is right there. Okay? Then open up the Attributes Inspector. There should be a thing down here that says, is initial view controller, and there it is. There's the checkbox right there. All right, it says once you've changed that, go over to the Identity Inspector, and I always forget which is which, I'm sorry, and under Class right there, it says change the class to View Controller. Okay? All right. So we've done most of the stuff on page 215, but we're still not finished yet. It says tab bars can use icons to represent each of the tabs. So we should also add the icons we're going to use before editing the storyboard. You can find some suitable icons, and that's why I left wherever that is. It's not what I wanted. That's the one that's already finished. So I want to bring up Finder. Okay. And what it says here is that in the Chapter 7 folder, it says each subfolder of 07 image sets, which is right here. So each one of these subfolders contains 3 images, 1 for devices with standard displays and 2 for Retina devices. In the code Project Navigator, select the Images Assets folder, which already contains default graphics, and then drag each folder and drop it into the left-hand column of the editing area underneath App Icon. So in other words, okay, let me click over here. I'll have to show this. And now I'll bring this back if I can find it. All right, so they want us to come over here and in our X assets, okay, and we want to drag each subfolder and drop it into the left column of the editing area underneath App Icon. Well, let's see if we click here, click on there. There's App Icon. All right, so select the drag each subfolder and drop it into the left column of the editing area underneath App Icon. Now we might be able to do these all at once, but I'm not sure, so I'm just going to drag and drag and drag. First one looks like it, I guess it did come out okay. Again, it might be possible to do these all at one time. Not really sure. Didn't try one way or the other, so. Now, hopefully I did that correctly. Hopefully it's all okay. All right, so I've dragged each subfolder over and dropped it in the left-hand column. Unfortunately, they don't show this. They explain how to do it on the bottom of 215 and the top of 216, but they don't show how to do it. On the top of page 216, it says they give you some tips if you want to create your own icons. I don't. All right, back in the storyboard, it says here, so I think I'm done with this, at least for now. So back in, and I don't need that either, sorry. So back in our storyboard, you can see that each of the child view collectors has a name like item 1, etc. All right, there's item 1, there's item 2, etc. It says we might as well have set these two up so that they have the right names from the start. So select item 1's view controller. And then click the tab bar at the bottom or in the document outline. Just want to click basically right there. And I want to change the title right here. Or I guess we can also do it over here to the attributes inspector, but this should work just fine. So we're supposed to put date in here. And you notice that changed to date into date C. All right, it says while you're still in the inspector, click the image pop-up. Which of course I don't see. Replace the text with date and press enter. This immediately changes the text, the bar item to the right, as well as the corresponding, well, we did that. It says while you're still in the inspector, click the image pop-up. Well, I'm going to look at all these. There's nothing in there that I can see for an image. Nothing there. Nothing there for an image. Nothing I can see here for an image. And nothing here. That's the one they told us to click on. All right. Don't know if this is what they mean or not. Okay. So I'm going to change that right there to date. And that image will now be apple bar cherry clock. We want us to choose the clock icon, which changed that. Okay, good. Now repeat the same steps for the second view controller, which would be item 2. All right, so I'm going to change the name of that one to single. And I'm going to change the title in here also to single. Just leave that one off. I don't think I did it on the other one. So once I do that and hit enter, it changed both of them. Good. So now I'm going to click in here as we did before. That title which says item 2, I'm going to make that single. And find for the image, the single icon. Okay, which is a 1. All right. Our next step, I'm on the middle of page 216. Our next step is to complete our tab bar controller so it reflects the 5 tabs as shown in figure 7.2. All right, well, what was figure 7.2? Let's go back and take a quick look. So we've got the clock and we've got the 1, but we've got to add the other ones so we have our other information that's in there. Now, I didn't show this before, although I said I guess I was going to, and I didn't. So I know I've got it open in here someplace. Let me take this and minimize and minimize. This is the one I think that we just did, so sorry. So the one I will want, I believe, is here. All right, this is the one from our author. So if I run this, and unfortunately I should have started up the simulator previously and I didn't, because you know I occasionally have problems with the simulator, but we'll see how this works. All right, build succeeded. Let's come down to our simulator. Here it is. And nothing. Maybe I'm just too impatient, but I'm going to stop and I'm going to run the program again. And ideally, when I bring it in here and I key, if I click on the different icons in there, the 1, the 2, the clock, etc., it's going to give me the ability to go to different views, pages, whatever you want to call it. Still is nothing coming up in here, which I don't like. There was Pickers. Okay, good. All right. So this is the one that's coming up automatically. And notice if I choose today and I click right here, it tells me I selected 3/16/2015 at 19:14:43. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, I don't know what the 19 part is, to be honest with you, but the time is 2:15. So 12, I thought that would have been 14, but it's not. It's got today's date. All right, so you'll notice if I go to a 1, now I get a bunch of names. So if I start to scroll my way through here, or I'll just grab that one, Han, and click. You selected Han. All right, so there's my second one. If I go to the next one, here's where I've got these independent things. So I can click on peanut butter, and I can click on rye, and select, and it says, thank you, your peanut butter and rye bread will be right up. Then I can click the next one here. Remember, these are the dependents. So as I come in here and I switch from Alabama to Wisconsin, trying to peruse my way through here, and it's not being very helpful. Don't want to do it this way, but I'm going to, because eventually it'll get me to Wisconsin. Here we go. And my guess is if I perused my way through here long enough, all right, and kept going and going and going, eventually I'd find, for example, 53511. But I'll just stop it right here. I'll select, and notice you selected zip code 53019, which is in Wisconsin. All right, and then finally we've got our little mini slot machine. If I spin it, I want to get 3 in a row. Does look quite random to me, at least. Will I ever win? There's 2 in a row. I wanted to win just to show you the message that comes up when you do win. There we go, winner. Oh, only took about 50 games. All right, so that's what we're attempting to build here. Okay, I'm going to stop the simulator. And this one right here, I'm just going to minimize it. All right. Our next step is to complete our tab bar controller so it reflects the 5 tabs as shown in Figure 7.2. Each of these 5 tabs represents one of our 5 pickers. The way we're going to do this is by simply adding 3 more view controllers to the storyboard in addition to the 2 we already have, and then connecting each of them so that the tab bar controller can activate them. Start by dragging out a normal view controller from the object library. So I want to come back down here. There's view controller. All right, I'm going to grab it and drag it out here. Okay, there it is. Again, I'm going to change the size down to iPhone 4-inch. So I've got another one in here. All right. You can see that it's not connected right now to anything. So that's what we want to do next. Okay, again, it says here it doesn't matter where we do this, how we do this, etc. So I just want to move this one over so that I can connect it to this one here. All right, so how do we do that? It says next, control drag from the tab bar controller to your new view controller. From the tab bar to your new view controller. So all right, so we want it from our tab bar controller to our new view controller. Okay, didn't like that. All right, and it says, and select view controllers from the relationship segue section. There it is right here. All right, now you'll notice, you may or may not have noticed, but now from our tab view controller, we now have another little linkage into this one. It says this tells the tab bar controller that it has a new child to maintain. So the tab bar immediately acquires a new item, and your new controller gets a bar item at the bottom, right here. All right. Now we want to change the on here, we want to change this to double. And the icon we want is the double icon. All right, so we now have that one done. All right, now before I fix that, because otherwise I'll forget, I'm going to come back over to here and I'm going to bring up my document outline. And the one that I just created here, the double scene, all right, you'll notice that still is called item, which is not a very good name. So let's change the name of that from item to double. What the happened there? I think I had to change it before I did this, so I think it's going to stay at item. So that's on me. Might be able to come over here and change it though, so let's see. Oh, that changed it. Double. All right. It says now we're really getting somewhere. Drag out 2 more view controllers and connect them to the tab bar controller in the same way, one at a time. One will be dependent, we call dependent, and have the dependent icon as its image. The other will be custom with tool icon as its image. All right, so yeah, to start with here, let me close some of this stuff. All right, so I want to add 2 more view controllers to this one right here. So I am going to have to bring the object library back. Let's bring on a new view controller. Boom, right there. Let's again change its size just because, as mentioned, it's easier to work with. All right, now I'm going to go to the view controller and control drag over to here. Didn't like that. Relationship segue again, view controllers. Boom, got that done. This, under the title, we are told that this one should be called dependent. And the image should be the dependent icon. There's that one. And we have to add 1 more view controller. Again, pretty much where we add these doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm going to throw it there. I will again change the size. All right, and again, go from my view controller right here. Again, control drag from here over to here. And again, choose view controllers under relationship segue. Under the title right here, I want this one to be custom. And I want, that's not the word I wanted, sorry. Under here, I want this to be custom. And under the icon, I want the icon to be the custom icon. Maybe not. Tool icon as its image, I'm sorry. Okay, I think I've got it all done now. It says now that all of our view controllers are in place, it's time to set each one of them up with the correct controller class. This will let us have different functionality in each view. In other words, every time we click one of the different icons down here, we'll have something different happen. All right. All right, it says in the document outline, select the view controller named item 1. Well, I already changed that one, and I changed it to single. Okay. There it is right here. And then bring up the identity inspector. In the custom class section of the inspector, change the class to date picker view controller. So in the custom class section, all right, change the class to date picker view controller. And press return or tab to set it. Okay? You'll see the name of the selected control in the document outline changes to date, mirroring the image that you made. Well, mine already was. Now repeat the same process for the next 4 view controllers in the order in which they appear at the bottom of the tab bar controller. So go to the identity. So we got to do the single component picker, which is number 2 here. We did the date. In fact, I think I did the wrong one here. All right. That's our date. Okay, so we want the date one. Is that one correct now? Date picker, view controller, tab. All right, that should be correct. Then we want to go over to our single, which is here, here, and that one is wrong. We want that to be single component controller, tab. So that's the second one. Then we go over to number 2 here, which is double, over here, and we want that to be double component picker, view controller, tab. So that's the first 3 are done. All right. So we've got a bunch of these done and a couple more to go. Let's see. We have left our dependent and custom. All right, so I have to find the one here that's called custom. And I believe at least I'm done. It says, before moving on to the next bit of GUI editing, save your storyboard file. Sounds like a fine idea. All right. At this point, the tab bar in the content view should be hooked up and working. Compile the application and run and launch. All right. Check each of the tabs in turn. Each tab should be selectable. So in other words, we're about to run this, and when we do, it should look like what you see on the bottom of page 217. Right here. Whoops, sorry. So I should have all this stuff, and I should be able to go to any of the 5. All right, so let's check that out. Again, I've saved already, so let's run. Hopefully I've hooked everything up and I haven't forgotten anything. It's the problem with doing these separately, independently, and outside of class, is in class, one of you could just say to me, no, you forgot this, no, you forgot this. But, all right, when I get done with this, when I get this hopefully running, looking the way that it should look, all right, then I'm going to stop and restart because I'm already about an hour into this. They mention on page 218, it says there's nothing in the content views now, so the changes won't be very dramatic. In fact, you won't see any difference at all except for the highlighting tab bar items. But one of the things that we could have done is, for instance, we could have changed the background color on each page or done something along those lines. So there I am. There's 1, there's 2, there's the 3rd one, there's the 4th one, there's back here. All right. So as far as I can tell, everything looks okay. As it says, if you want to make doubly sure everything's working, you can add a label or some other object to each of the content views. All right, let's try that. Okay, what do I mean? I'm going to show you what I mean. Okay, I'm going to go back. Just take it from the top. All right, and that's fine. I'll start with the double one. It doesn't matter. And with the double one highlighted, I'm going to go over here to my attributes inspector. Someplace, I believe, over here. I could be wrong, but I thought there was someplace over here where I could change the color. Doesn't look right. And as always, I could be wrong. It wouldn't be the first time. It definitely won't be the last time. All right. So let's do this. Let's literally put a label on each one of these just to make sure that this is working. All right, so I'm going to drag a label out here, put it basically in about the middle, okay? And I believe this one is double. Okay, so that's the first one. Let's go over to single. Grab another label. Same kind of thing. Single. All right. Move next on to date. All right. Then move to dependent. And finally, to custom. Again, these won't be anything, this is nothing to look at as far as pretty or whatever, but ideally this will help show, prove, whatever you want to say, that the right thing is coming up at the right time, all right, for lack of better words. All right, there's date, single, double. Let's see, this one should be dependent, and the last one should be custom. So it appears to be working. Everything's cool. All right, let's quit the simulator, and let's save the project. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to stop my taping so I can start up part 2. Be back at you in just a couple.